The Big Ideas Platform is a thought leadership initiative that's been developed by the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, which is an unconventional school that's designed to attract, develop, and also produce a new generation of political leaders who will listen and serve the new class of citizens who know their rights. The Big Ideas Platform aims to promote dialogue, collaboration, and action to address the present challenges faced by African communities.
Welcome to the Big Ideas Platform podcast. The Big Ideas Platform is a thought leadership initiative that's been developed by the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, which is an unconventional school that's designed to attract, develop, and also produce a new generation of political leaders who will listen and serve the new class of citizens who know their rights. With a focus on empowering African innovators and also amplifying their voices, the Big Ideas Platform aims to promote dialogue, collaboration, and action to address the pressing challenges faced by African communities. By highlighting transformative ideas, the Big Ideas Platform strives to facilitate inclusive growth, development, and the realization of the African Renaissance. On this episode of the Big Ideas Platform podcast, we will be speaking with Ijeoma Akwiwu about her big idea of growing Africa's SMEs supply chain. Now, a little bit about Ijeoma. Previously worked at Gilmore Engineering Nigeria Limited as an in-house legal counsel and regulatory compliance manager. Ijeoma attended the Lagos State University where she studied law, and then she worked as a firm lawyer for several years. She also attended the University of Glasgow, where she got a master's degree in software development. Ijeoma is a pioneer in revolutionizing Africa's supply chain landscape by empowering small and medium-sized enterprises, that's SMEs, empowering them to thrive and also to connect with global markets. Her journey began with a simple yet bold idea to create a seamless, inclusive supply chain ecosystem that would enable African SMEs to thrive. Ijeoma is the co-founder of Pivo Africa. Welcome to the Big Ideas Platform podcast, Ijeoma.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. So let's get right in. Now, your big idea is growing Africa's SMEs supply chain. I'd like you to start by talking to us about a company you co-founded and what it does as a opener to the conversation, Pivo Africa.
Awesome. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you and to everyone else that's tuned in listening. The big idea literally was more or less like ensuring or increasing the capacity of SMEs through financing. So the big idea was to build an end-to-end financial operating system for Africa's supply chains with the focus on SMEs. As you can imagine, SMEs right now are above the figure of like 44 million in sub-Saharan Africa. And with that number, you and I can tell that, they make up most of the workforce, right? Of businesses that are thriving or are working on the continent. But unfortunately for the SMEs, the small and medium-sized businesses, the issues that they're always overlooked, underbanked, undervalued, stressed, every negative thing that you can think about. And most of the financial institutions are always looking at the large guys or the large corporates, right? Because it's just easier to do business with them. They have the businesses or the partnerships, they have the money, they have the reputation, right, to protect. So it's just an easier way out to deal with them. But people fail to forget, or rather, they fail to remember that the SMEs are the ones that make up the workforce for these large corporates. So they themselves also need access to the financing that will enable them be more efficient, right, in their delivery of services. So once I was talking about the African supply chain, right, the big question here is what exactly is the supply chain? As you can imagine, supply chain, the whole idea of a supply chain is is the journey, right, from sourcing of your raw materials to, the manufacturing, to the packaging, to the distribution, right? To the people that will now like be your retail clients, right? And finally, it gets to the end user, the end customer. That whole process, right, is what we call a supply chain. Now, as an SME or a business player, it's a matter of which position am I taking up in this big picture. So yes, finance, as you can imagine, makes the world go around, and access to financing is more or less like for me, it's the equivalent of like a fundamental human rights, right? Just
Oh,
but
yes.
for businesses, it's the lifeline, the blood of every business. So the question or the no-brainer answer to it was how can we make it accessible to ensure that the small guys that are always overlooked, how can we make it easier for them to access it? So I hope I have answered the question. And I just remembered you asked about the company. So Pivo Africa literally was born out of, it was our answer to COVID, like a business recovery plan for,
Wow.
again, SMEs after COVID. Um, Again, as you can imagine, after COVID, every other person had business recovery plans for the large corporates, right? You go to the banks, everyone is thinking of the who is who, right? But nobody was thinking about the, Nnamdi and Sons and the, Amaka and daughters down there that would have to still work with the large corporates that you and I know.
Yeah.
And those people, they found it difficult, accessing credits because everyone saw how bad COVID was. People lost their businesses totally.
Sorry to
So that,
interrupt there, Ijeoma. So you're saying, especially this period immediately after COVID, you're saying the big financial houses turns their attention to big businesses instead of the smaller ones, because I recall the state of the global economy then, it wasn't in a good state. Okay, how do you determine or how do you select which clients to finance? How do you deal with risk, for example, and so on and so forth?
yeah. Okay. So again, it's your approach, right? In which space you want to play in, right? The supply chain as a whole picture is a big, big, big picture. So you need to decide which sector you want to, is like your ICP, like your ideal customer profile, right? For us, when we went to market, our go-to-market strategy then was to focus on the logistics service providers. And that was the ICP as at 2021 because of, I would say, the founder fit to the chosen problem area. And I'll speak for myself. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My family's business, it's the transportation business, has been it has been in existence since 1964. So it's a generational business. And having watched, the ups and the downs, right? And I understood clearly what, logistics service providers needed, more importantly, when it came to financing, because again, having seen my father, his brothers, cousins, deal with these issues directly, I knew the
Yeah.
lingo, I knew the pain points. There are certain people or certain businesses that you need to know their payment terms, right? The whole idea of working capital is more their short-term loans, right? Minimum of 30 days, maximum of, for us, a maximum of 90 days. If you have to recycle or, you can extend to at least 120 days, right? So these are like, they keep, the new, there is a revolving facility, right? So you need to be very clear on the payment terms from the owner, the contract owner, right? Some contract owners will say, okay, after invoicing, we pay you within 30, 45, 60, whatever that looks like. So that's the very first thing we look at, what the payment terms are. Secondly, again, it's a matter of looking for other data points or data sources of the parties involved. Again, more importantly, the contract owners, because there are certain businesses that, by the time you ask around, they don't really stick to the plan, right? They are very late on payments. So you really do not want your own, would I say, cash trapped in that sort of transaction where it will now become an NPL or rather a non-performing loan in the long run. So that's the second way we look at businesses. The third way, of course, is the business itself, right? Unfortunately, in Nigeria, having a credit score is not really a big thing, but we, like as a business, we have a credit focused approach. And we also have like an in-house credit scoring or algorithm for that. And yeah, finally, insurance. To be honest, insurance is very, very important when it comes to these businesses, right? When you're dealing with cargo, it's goods in transit, goods in transit, insurance that is needed, or any kind of like specific kind of bespoke insurance that's tied to any transaction. It's very, very important that the SMEs have those. And even if they don't, again, we have strategic partnerships with insurance companies that are able to, like, in split seconds, or well, as long as the SME can provide the necessary information, we're able to facilitate that for them. So that is how we do our risk assessments, well, without giving away too much information.
Understood. The Nigerian business space, especially the micro business, the level at which you want to cater for, the Ndidi Amakas and co, and so on and so forth. How open are they to things like insurance? This in a country where the cost of business is not exactly something to smile about. How do they feel about taking on insurance, which is one of the things you say you look at before you do engage, interact with them on a business level?
So first things first, information or education first on what they stand to gain. But another thing I see, or problem I see, is the way like insurance is structured, right, in Nigeria. For most of Nigerians, right, everyone just has this mentality of like insurance companies are just taking free money. That's just it. I'm just paying premium, and in a year nothing will happen. In 2 years, God forbid, like, so they just feel like they're just dashing the insurance company's money. That is just the mindset. But the truth is that when that one disaster now happens, what now happens? That's when you now see the beauty of the coverage that you have been paying so much, or supposedly so much all these years. But I think, we're in 2024, and I feel like the way insurance is structured micro insurance is a thing, should be a thing now, right? And also I feel it should be a give and take relationship. Again, I'm not in the insurance industry, but I feel that they can do better with their structure, right?
Okay, so let me break it down now for our listener. What would it take for someone like me, if you've now piqued my interest, you've now said, all right, look, there is a need in this area. What would it take for someone like me to go into a business that provides these services, that is providing logistics to the MSME supply chain? What would I need to do, first of all?
That's an interesting question, because in the beginning of the program, I broke out different players, right? Where you want to like play, whether you want to source or manufacture, distribute, or be a retailer, or eventually be a logistics service provider. So that's just one of the buckets.
Yeah.
You as someone interested, right? It's a matter of like, what is your goal, right? What sort of profit margin are you looking for? Everybody knows that the logistics service space is notorious for having a very slim profit margin.
So let's say I want to connect my family business. We have cattle and so on and so forth. We're looking to go into, let's say, mechanized. Let's want to mechanize the whole operation, which is have a proper dairy farm where we have livestock slaughtered there, prepared, and then transported to end up in supermarkets here in Lagos.
Okay. That's a clearer business case. But I think on a serious note now, it's a matter of like taking a holistic view of the business, right? Yes, you're a cattle rearer. You're already the one that is sourcing and growing forgive my pun, the meat of the matter here. But now you have to now go through some, refining of the product, or manufacturing of the product. And you're thinking of, creating a factory, right? And like I mentioned, that is capital intensive. And again, if you can't go to the traditional, banks, of course, they will ask you for your business plan. You have to have your projections. You have to have, so please, I hope you have a CFO at hand for that. But for us, if we are going to think of even financing this project, right? The factory as a whole is capital intensive. That looks like a long-term kind of transaction. So that automatically already falls outside our thesis of funding, right?
Okay, well, that's been very, very helpful. I'll be honest. Again, I said at the start of this discussion that I would benefit more from it than you possibly would. You're opening my mind and take me on a journey that I never even knew possible. And I hope it's the same for our listener as well. Now, because we're talking about, logistics, we're talking about big ideas on a continental scale. I'd like us to scale up the discussion now, and let's
Mm-hmm.
put it within the purview of Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. What opportunities
Mm.
present themselves for your business, for example, under a setting like that, and what would be some of the challenges, especially from a country to country perspective? I say that I asked that question, the last one specifically, because moving goods from one state in Nigeria to another, we've got multiple taxation to contend with. You've got road conditions. You've got so many things going on. So on a continental scale, what opportunities abound or present themselves for your business, and what challenges do you anticipate, and how do you hope to address those challenges?
Yeah. So as you can imagine, it's exports, right? And the needs right now, Nigeria needs more of exportation, right, than importation. And that is good enough for sweet spots for my business to facilitate such transactions. But as you can imagine, dealing with exportation, you also have to deal with FX issues, right? And the past couple of months has not been fun in terms of sourcing, FX. But we don't play in the we don't play in the FX space. Or we front you the capital in the local currency, which is naira. And you as a business, you unfortunately have to deal with what that looks like. But the beauty again is that that's why technology is here. There are definitely other fintechs that play in that space. So we are definitely integrated with their platforms, and also see what the prevailing exchange rate of the day is, and communicate accordingly. Well, through the dashboard, through the customer's dashboard, they can see what the prevailing exchange rate of the day is. So, Camry, it's not been easy doing business. So that question, it's a necessary question to ask, but I think it's something that's all relevant stakeholders, more importantly, government stakeholders. We all need to come to a round table, right, and have this honest discussion. And in any country, we should be receiving incentives, right, or tax breaks or something that would just say, you know what, we've heard you. We want to ensure that you're, at least surviving. Until that happens, I really fear for the SMEs survival rate.
Well said. It is a matter of concern, and for those of us who are in the space of observing what is happening, for me personally, it's about, first of all, stability. And we'd like to see more of that from the central bank, stability, and then a roadmap that is practical, that is applicable, something people can buy into and believe in. And then we'll be ready to make the sacrifices as the government takes us to this place where everyone can, fully realize their financial, social, economic, and political potentials, or whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah.
it is difficult. Yes.
Can I chip in? Can I chip in something? Like, again, this yes, the government is here to make sure that it's the government's rights. But unfortunately, in the Nigerian context, that social contract that ought to exist between the government and the people is just missing. And look at just the recent case of what is going on with the landmark beach, area.
Yes.
Yes, people would say the land use access that, the governor of the state, or, whatever the president has, as long as it's for the overriding public interest, right? And that's why millions of investments is now just demolished. Thousands of jobs are now being lost. Why? Because of an overriding public interest that will not manifest or will not be finalized till 2045. And I keep wondering, who did that analysis, right? Yes, you did the analysis, you pitched, you did everything, right? But it's something called right timing. Was now the right time? And even if you're looking at the cost of this decision, right? Who stands to how am I trying to frame this statement now? Who stands to earn better? Is it people in Lagos or people in Calabar in terms of infrastructure? Does Calabar have a better infrastructure and rather a better environment, right? Why couldn't that the development or whatever start from Calabar and not as why did it have to start from Lagos? If we're thinking about generating revenue, why didn't it start from Calabar? I don't think Calabar needs the infrastructure. Like, well, if we're again looking at who is generating revenue more, like Lagos actually generates more revenue for Nigeria as a whole. But now you destroyed businesses, thousands have lost jobs. What is the plan? And I'm hearing of course, I've been reading and like trying to like keep up with the situation. And you're talking about compensation that is not even a fraction of how much time, money, deliberation. It's not like these people just came and set up the businesses illegally. There was a process to that. And in the twinkle of an eye, it's gone. And these are the small and medium-sized businesses that we're here discussing today. Where are they going to start from now? What's going to happen? Are you going to allot them another prime location like the beach where they were? Is that what's going to happen, or what is the plan? So I just needed to put that in there in the discussion, and just again, it's this is a conversation where like the other stakeholders, the key stakeholders, you and I need to come to the table and let's be pragmatic about the situation if we're being serious about Nigeria thriving.
Okay. And also the tourism value, of that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't overlook that. This in a country where insecurity is the biggest news. So it goes without saying. Other news that is non-security related, like tourism, for example. Oh, Nigeria, there's a lovely stretch of beach where people can go, and that would have been nice as well for that sort of thing. Okay, so as we wrap up the conversation now, I'd like you to make one request or ask a question, if you prefer, of the people who would listen and watch this podcast. That's innovators or idea generators. I would like to speak to them, or you could speak to policymakers, or you could speak to generally members of the public. I'd like you to make one request or ask a question of them that we hope will serve as a catalyst for further action from that listening group. You can take your pick.
I think for me, what was more important for me is just the ease of doing business, right? As a facilitator of finance for businesses, or even as the businesses that benefit from the kind of solutions developed by entities like ours. It's just a matter of how can, again, the key stakeholders remove all these barriers, first of all, barriers to entry and also barriers to operating, right? It's like we just haven't caught any break. It's just back to back to back, issues that have been going on, again, outside of the macroeconomic issues. So really my ask, or I keep saying this, like there should be like a roundtable discussion where honest conversations are had, where pragmatic solutions are agreed to, and not just a matter of okay, just for the sake of it, like it's actually implemented. Nigeria has an implementation problem or execution problem. We talk a lot, and the only thing that you see people moving quickly is when it comes to demolition or the negative things. So it's a matter of please, please, and please. It's just how can we, make things better in terms of really truly sticking to the idea and the principle of ease of doing business, not just okay, making sure that you can register your company in how many days. That's not ease of doing business. Ease of doing business is in the day-to-day, the collaboration scene, in the ability to go from 0 to 1, in the ability to move from point A to point B. All these things are what make businesses thrive. Whether you're a small business that is selling pepper on the road, or you're a high-tech company that is selling software to to the Microsoft and the Apples of the world, right? So how can we foster this this enabling environment that is truly embodying the idea of easily doing business, and let us catch up with our with our peers in other parts of the world. So that's just my ask. I don't think it was an ask, but please, that is the sincerest ask I can ask for as an operator in the Nigerian ecosystem.
Okay, how can people follow your work or get in touch with you? We'd like you to please share your social media handles and so on.
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Ijeoma Akwiwu. You can find me there. I'm also currently, so last year I finished a program at the University of Oxford. But this year I'm trying to spearhead or to launch a business in the UK, which is called Greenback. Greenback is connecting SMEs with green and sustainable financing. That's another interesting topic that, again, these are first world issues, right? People are thinking of going green and being sustainable and carbon credit trading and innovative things. And I really hope Nigeria, this is a new way of businesses to make revenue. So that's what the latest venture is here in the UK now. And yeah, LinkedIn is where you can find me, other than Google. I'm not really active on any other on Twitter, any of those things. Send me an email, ijeomaakwiwu@gmail.com. And yes, always happy to be part of the conversation.
Okay, thank you so much, Ijeoma Akwiwu, co-founder of Pivo Africa. Thank you for sharing your big idea with us. Let's hope it catches on and the big idea spreads far and wide. Thank you once again.